The Grand Plaza Hotel in Manhattan, late evening. A weary man, dressed in wrinkled clothes and a worn baseball cap, steps through the revolving doors. His boots are scuffed, his backpack old and tattered. No one recognizes him. No one realizes that he is Keanu Reeves. Before we continue, let us know where you're watching from, and if you love stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow, we have another incredible story waiting for you. I just need a quiet room, he thinks as he approaches the reception desk. But Richard Thompson, the hotel's manager of 15 years, has other ideas. He is known for judging guests by their appearance. One look at Keanu's simple attire, and Richard decides to teach this unworthy guest a lesson. "Sir," he says loudly, his tone dripping with disdain, "I believe you've come to the wrong place. We have certain standards here." What happens next not only leaves everyone in the lobby speechless, but delivers the biggest shock of Richard's career. Because the man he is trying to throw out owns 40% of the entire hotel chain. The Grand Plaza's lobby is on edge. Richard stands behind the mahogany counter, looking down at Keanu with cold, dismissive eyes. "Sir," he says sharply, "perhaps you're mistaken. The budget hotel is 3 blocks down." His words, meant to humiliate, are spoken loudly enough for all to hear. Sarah, a young receptionist, feels her heart sink. No, no, no. She trembles slightly, pretending to shuffle documents. She knows she can't stop what's about to happen. A well-dressed couple on a nearby sofa whispers to each other. "Poor guy," the woman murmurs, clutching her husband's arm. "Someone should say something." Yet, Keanu remains calm. His voice is low but firm. "I have a reservation." Richard refuses to back down. His wounded pride won't let him. "A reservation?" He laughs sarcastically, his voice echoing against the marble walls. "And how exactly could you afford that? This isn't a roadside motel. Our rooms start at $800 a night." He emphasizes the price, eyes fixated on Keanu's worn backpack. Sarah watches Keanu's eyes. There's no anger, just exhaustion. But somehow, his calmness makes her even more uncomfortable. He seems like such a kind person. Why can't Mr. Thompson see that? An elderly guest, a longtime patron of the Grand Plaza, shakes his head in disapproval. In 20 years, he has never witnessed such disrespect. Richard smirks. "Perhaps you'd be better off somewhere more suited to your current situation." With a dismissive wave, he gestures at Keanu's entire appearance. The lobby falls silent. Even the soft piano music in the background seems to fade in shame. A young couple signing their checkout documents pauses, their pins hovering above the paper. And then Richard makes his fatal mistake. Richard's face turns red with irritation as he grabs the hotel security phone. His gold ring gleams under the chandelier. "If you can't provide immediate proof of payment," he declares loudly, "I'll have to ask security to escort you out." Keanu takes a deep breath. "Stay calm. Don't make a scene. It's not worth it." His hands remain at his sides, relaxed. But his eyes now carry a quiet determination that makes Sarah shiver. Within seconds, 2 security guards appear, their heavy footsteps echoing on the marble floor. A little girl whispers to her mother, "Mommy, isn't that?" Before she can finish, Richard's voice booms again. "See these credit cards?" He gestures to the elite cards displayed on the reception desk. "These are for our real clients." He pauses for dramatic effect. "I doubt you could afford even our cheapest room." Sarah feels sick. This is wrong. Guests are pulling out their phones to record the scene. An elderly couple enjoying cocktails puts down their glasses, unable to look away from the unfolding disaster. "Sir," Keanu finally says, reaching into his pocket, "there's no need. There's every need." Richard cuts him off. "This is the Grand Plaza Hotel, not a truck stop." He barks at the security guards. "Remove this man from our premises." The guards exchange a nervous glance. Something about this guest feels different, but orders are orders. They step forward. Just then, an unexpected voice booms across the lobby. The tension is unbearable. Richard stands tall, like a judge passing sentence. "You have exactly 2 minutes to leave," he warns, "or I will have you removed." Sarah can't take it anymore. Her heart pounds as she steps forward. Mr. Thompson, please, if you could just check the system. Silence. Richard snaps. Sarah flinches. You're new here, Sarah. You don't understand our standards. He puffs out his chest, reveling in the power of maintaining the hotel's reputation. But at that moment, Keanu smiles. A soft, kind smile that brings tears to Sarah's eyes. It's okay, Sarah, Keanu says gently. Some battles aren't worth fighting. What happens next will change Richard Thompson's life forever. Sarah's hands tremble as she types a name into the hotel system. Then, suddenly, her eyes widen. No, 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 no. Her face turns pale as she stares at the screen. The reservation details make her heart stop. Mr. Thompson, she calls out, voice shaking. I think you really need to see this. Not now, Sarah. Richard waves her off, smug. I just proved to everyone here how we uphold our standards. But Sarah can't stay silent. Her eyes dart from the screen to the window, where Keanu is still on the phone. Mr. Thompson, she says again, voice trembling. The reservation is under the name KR Holdings. Richard freezes. A voice in his head screams, KR Holdings? Why does that sound so familiar? A young bellboy nearby drops the suitcase he was carrying. Sir, he whispers urgently, KR Holdings owns 40% of our entire hotel chain. Richard's face turns as pale as sour milk. What did you just say? His hands tremble. Through the glass doors, Keanu ends his call with a knowing smile. Just then, the massive entrance doors swing open with force. James Morrison, the CEO and founder of the hotel chain, strides inside, his face a mask of fury. Behind him, Keanu Reeves. Richard, Morrison's voice booms, filling the silent lobby. Care to explain why one of our major shareholders just called me about being kicked out of his own hotel? Inside, Richard is screaming. This is not happening. The same guest who watched him mock Keanu now stare in horror. Mr. Reeves, Morrison continued, turning toward the guest with deep respect, I deeply apologize for this unacceptable treatment. Richard's entire body sagged. Mr. Reeves? Keanu Reeves, one of the most influential figures in the hospitality industry. A man with enough shares in the company to fire him on the spot. Sarah bit her lip to hide a smile. Richard stumbled forward. And Mr. Reeves, I had no idea. Keanu held up a hand, silencing him. Tell me, Mr. Thompson, he said, his voice calm yet unyielding. Do you judge all your guests by their clothes? Sweat trickled down Richard's forehead. I was only trying to uphold our reputation. James Morrison interjected, furious. Our reputation is built on hospitality, not humiliation. He turned to Sarah. You, however, showed kindness. Sarah's heart pounded as Morrison smiled. How would you like to be our new general manager? Gasps rippled through the lobby. Richard's knees nearly buckled. 15 years, gone in an instant. Keanu stepped closer. Do you know why I stayed silent? He asked Richard softly. Because sometimes the best lessons are learned through experience. The elderly gentleman in the corner nodded approvingly. Guests who had filmed the ordeal finally lowered their phones, smirking at the fallen manager. A new beginning 1 month later, the Grand Plaza still gleamed beneath its chandeliers, but something had changed. Richard Thompson was no longer the general manager. Instead, he now ran the hotel's guest welcome program, ensuring every guest, no matter their appearance, felt valued. Sarah, the new general manager, watched proudly as Richard assisted an elderly couple with their luggage. Perhaps he was finally learning. Above the reception desk, a new motto shone in elegant lettering, "Every story deserves to be heard." And beneath it, framed in glass, a simple, worn baseball cap, a reminder that appearances never tell the whole story. Thank you for watching. If you missed our last story, don't worry, I've got you covered. I'll leave it here for you to watch. Hope you enjoy it.
A luxury boutique manager thought she could humiliate Sandra Bullock for looking too casual, never realizing the power of the woman standing before her. But when Keanu Reeves walked in, what he did left the entire store speechless. You won't believe how this story ends. What happened next turned into a scandal no one saw coming. But before we dive into the shocking twist, let us know where you're watching from. And if you love stories like this, hit that subscribe button, because tomorrow we have another unforgettable story for you. Now let's step inside Eloise Paris, a boutique so exclusive, it wasn't just a store, it was a sanctuary for the ultra-rich. A place where ordinary people were silently turned away, their presence unwelcome. Behind its sleek, minimalist facade lay a world of extravagance, genuine leather seating, imported rugs and racks lined with designer pieces that whispered of unattainable luxury. The air carried the scent of rare woody perfumes, and only those deemed worthy were offered a flute of chilled champagne. A soft jazz melody played in the background, sending a subtle message to anyone who dared to step inside. If you have to ask the price, this place isn't for you. And ensuring those unspoken rules were upheld, Elena, the boutique's manager. With her sharp gaze and flawless posture, Elena wasn't just selling fashion, she was selling status. She protected the store's exclusivity like a fortress, ensuring that only the right kind of people were allowed in. Anyone who didn't fit the mold, she could spot them within seconds. Then the soft chime of the boutique's entrance rang. A woman walked in, dressed in a plain white hoodie, simple sweatpants, and a black cap that obscured most of her face. Her brown hair was tied back in a casual bun, sunglasses shielding her eyes. Anywhere else, she would have gone unnoticed. But in this boutique, she stood out for all the wrong reasons. Helena, who had been meticulously adjusting a diamond necklace for a VIP client, froze mid-movement. Her gaze locked onto the new arrival, and in an instant, she knew, a tourist. Probably a window shopper, the type who wandered in just to admire the luxury, maybe sneak a few photos, and leave empty-handed. And that was not going to happen under Helena's watch. Discreetly, she stepped forward, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor as she made her way toward the entrance. Across the room, her assistant, Clara, saw the scene unfolding and already knew what was coming next. Sandra, meanwhile, strolled through the store at a leisurely pace, running her fingers over the delicate fabrics of exclusive designer pieces. She adored fashion, but what she despised, the way some people used it as a tool for superiority. Then, from behind her, a voice, "Can I help you?" Polite, but cold. Sandra turned to see Helena, standing tall with a perfectly trained smile. "Oh, thank you. I'm just looking." Helena's smile remained, but her decision was already made. This woman didn't belong here. "I see," Helena responded, her tone carrying the faintest trace of condescension. "Just so you know, we carry only exclusive, made-to-measure pieces. Nothing here is placed on display by chance." The message was clear. This place isn't for you. Sandra pressed her lips together slightly. "I imagine it's not." Helena tilted her head, caught off guard by the response. Was this woman mocking her? No matter, she would leave soon. But Sandra, she didn't move. Instead, she did something unexpected. She reached for a dress on the rack, an exclusive piece from the latest collection, with a price tag that only a select few could afford. Helena's patience snapped. She turned, and with a quick gesture, motioned for Clara. "Keep an eye on that woman," she ordered in a hushed voice. Clara hesitated. "But why?" Helena sighed, as if the answer should be obvious. "She might ruin the experience for our real customers." Clara's stomach twisted. Something about this felt wrong. Sandra, however, continued browsing, completely unfazed. But now the whispers began. Two VIP clients, lounging on an elegant leather sofa, exchanged quiet remarks. "Did you see that woman? How did she get in here? A hoodie and sweatpants. She looks like a lost tourist." Sandra felt the judgment, even if she didn't hear the words. It was always the same. Always. Helena, now growing impatient, moved in for the kill. Stepping forward with calculated elegance, she stopped beside Sandra and let out a carefully curated smile. "Ma'am," she said smoothly, "I see you've taken an interest in that dress." Sandra turned to her, unfazed. "Yes, it's beautiful." "I agree," Helena said, maintaining her flawless demeanor. "But perhaps I could suggest something more suited to your style." Sandra raised an eyebrow. "My style?" Helena's smile didn't falter, but her posture stiffened slightly. "Yes, we have some more casual pieces. Something that might make you feel more comfortable." Across the boutique, Clara felt her heart race. She had seen Helena do this before, but this time, something felt different. Sandra gave a small, knowing smile. "You think I wouldn't be comfortable in this?" Helena blinked. For the second time that day, something about this woman unsettled her. I just meant that you think I can't afford it. The room fell silent. The attendants pretended to rearrange shelves. The VIP clients stopped whispering. Clara held her breath. Helena, however, refused to be rattled. "Ma'am," she said smoothly, "I was simply suggesting something more appropriate." Sandra studied her for a moment, and then she laughed, soft, controlled, but definitive. Helena felt a chill run down her spine. Sandra continued browsing, but this time there was a shift in the air. Then, as if to test the manager's patience, she picked up a stunning black silk dress, an elegant piece with a staggering price tag. Helena's gaze locked onto her. She took a slow breath and stepped forward once more, her voice dripping with condescension. "Are you sure you want to try that on?" Sandra raised an eyebrow, but said nothing. Helena continued, not giving her a chance to respond. "I just mean this particular design requires a certain posture, a grace that brings out its natural elegance. And of course the right accessories." Her gaze flickered over Sandra's sweatshirt, cap and casual bun. Then, ever so softly, Helena let out a quiet, amused chuckle, and in that moment, she had no idea what was coming next. The tension in the boutique was so thick it could be cut with a knife. Helena had made her move, a thinly veiled insult disguised as an act of customer service. "I could suggest something more appropriate for your profile." The words were smooth, polite even, but the condescension was razor sharp. Sandra Bullock immediately understood what was happening. This wasn't about fashion. It wasn't even about exclusivity. This was about power, and Helena believed she had all of it. Sandra smiled slightly, not out of amusement, but because now she was certain Helena had no idea who she was dealing with. Still, she was curious. How far would this boutique manager go? She held the dress for a moment longer, then turned to Helena with an expression so casual, it almost seemed innocent. "And what exactly do you mean by that?" Helena's lips curled into a practiced smile, but her eyes gleamed with unmistakable superiority. "Just that. This kind of piece is designed for women who know how to wear it." Sandra raised an eyebrow. "Women who know how to wear it?" Helena didn't waver. "Yes, women who understand the sophistication of haute couture, who recognize the artistry, the craftsmanship, the value of a dress like this." She gestured vaguely, as if trying to encompass the essence of exclusivity in a single wave of her hand. "Women who don't need help understanding why this is special." Sandra took a deep breath. She had spent decades being treated like a Hollywood icon, respected, admired, but today, in this place, she was being treated like nothing. And that, more than anything, told her everything she needed to know about Helena. Without breaking eye contact, she asked, "You think I don't understand?" Helena's smile grew just a little wider, the arrogance behind it suffocating. "I think some people mistake this boutique for just any store." Sandra let out a small, amused laugh. Helena's disdain couldn't be more obvious. "So in your opinion, I shouldn't be here?" Helena played innocent. "Oh, I would never say that." Then, with a tilt of her head, and a smirk just sharp enough to cut, "But some of our regular clients might feel uncomfortable." There it was, the real message. "You don't belong here. You're making people uncomfortable." Sandra pressed her lips together for a moment. Then she let out a slow sigh. "I see." Helena thought she had won. She thought Sandra would bow her head in shame and leave, humiliated. But then something unexpected happened. Sandra lifted her gaze, locking eyes with Helena. Her voice was eerily calm, yet held the weight of something far greater than Helena had anticipated. "Funny," Sandra said, "because when I walked in no one offered me champagne." The boutique fell into absolute silence. The assistants exchanged nervous glances. The VIP clients sat still, eyes darting between the two women. Because everyone knew, important clients were always welcomed with champagne. Yet Sandra Bullock had received nothing. Helena's face went pale. For the first time she felt something she wasn't used to, uncertainty, but she recovered quickly. "Oh, that must have been a mistake," she said, forcing a light laugh. "Of course I can have a glass brought to you right away." Sandra's smile returned, but this time, it was anything but friendly. "No need." Her voice was soft, but sharp, a blade disguised as silk. "I've already seen everything I needed to see." Before Helena could react, Sandra turned to Clara, the young assistant who had been silent this entire time. "Clara," she asked, holding up the dress, Do you think this would look good on me? Clara hesitated. She looked at Helena, then back at Sandra, and then with a deep breath, she made her choice. Yes, her voice was clear, unshaken. It would look incredible. Helena felt the ground slip from beneath her feet, because in that moment, she realized something terrible. She was no longer in control. The last stand, Helena refused to surrender. This nobody in a hoodie and sweatpants had refused to leave. And worse, she had turned the game against her. Helena would not let that happen. With a cold, calculated smile, she took a step forward. Well, she said sweetly, since you're so interested in that dress, I can call one of our sales assistants to help you in the fitting room. The tone was unmistakable. If you insist on embarrassing yourself, I'll make sure to watch you do it. Before Sandra could respond, Helena turned to Clara. Clara, please take this piece to the fitting room and check if we have an appropriate size. Sandra raised an eyebrow. She knew exactly what that meant. Helena was implying she didn't have the right body type, that she wasn't refined enough, that she wasn't worthy of haute couture. The boutique felt suffocating. Some VIP clients smirked behind manicured hands, not because it was funny, but because the humiliation was too fascinating to look away from. Sandra took a deep breath, then she crossed her arms. And still, she did not leave. Helena felt a flicker of unease. The room was watching her now, and not just watching, judging. Some clients looked uncomfortable. Helena saw it too late. If this woman could be treated like this, then any of them could be next. But her arrogance wouldn't let her stop. She doubled down. You know, ma'am, she said in a falsely casual tone, we have a more affordable store 3 blocks from here. Perhaps you'd find something that suits your style better. The blow was brutal. Even Clara held her breath. Sandra let out a low, disbelieving laugh. Did you just suggest I go to a cheaper store? Helena didn't back down. I just think some clients prefer something more practical, more comfortable. Then with the final devastating blow, after all, luxury isn't for everyone. The silence that followed was deafening. Sandra kept smiling, but this time, it wasn't friendly. It was dangerous. And then she did something that made the entire boutique freeze. She took the dress, draped it over her arm, and started walking toward the register. Helena frowned. What are you doing? Sandra stopped at the counter, looked at the register. Then she turned back to Helena, eyes gleaming with something Helena didn't recognize. Triumph. I'll take it. The boutique held its breath. Helena let out a scoffing laugh. Really? Sandra nodded. Yes. Then she took off her sunglasses. After all, luxury may not be for everyone, but I'm pretty sure it's for me. Helena turned pale. A VIP client gasped. Another whispered, oh my God, because now, without the sunglasses, everyone recognized her. Sandra Bullock, one of the most powerful women in the film industry, a woman with a $250 million fortune. And then, Helena turned pale. Her world collapsed in an instant. The color drained from her face as realization set in. She had just publicly humiliated one of the biggest Hollywood icons, and now everyone in the boutique knew it. And then the boutique doors opened again. The soft chime of the door rang out, but this time, it felt different. A presence walked in, one that shifted the entire atmosphere of the room. He moved with slow but deliberate steps, the fabric of his long black coat swaying slightly as he walked. His slightly tousled hair gave him an effortless charm, but his eyes weren't surprised. Because Keanu Reeves already knew exactly what had happened here. He knew who he was looking for. Without hesitation, he crossed the boutique, without glancing at anyone else. Helena felt her body tense. The VIP clients covered their mouths in shock. Clara swallowed hard. And then Keanu stopped right in front of Sandra. Without saying a word, he pulled her into a hug that was strong, real. The kind of embrace shared by two people who had been through everything together. Sandra smiled softly, hugging him back. Helena felt the ground disappear beneath her feet. Because now, it wasn't just Sandra Bullock. It was also Keanu Reeves. And he had just embraced her like an old friend. Keanu pulled back slightly, looking at Sandra. It's been too long, Bullock, he murmured. Sandra smiled. Far too long, Keanu. Then he looked around. He took in the boutique. Finally, his gaze locked onto Helena, and in that moment, Helena knew. He knew everything. He didn't need to ask. He had seen Sandra's expression. He had noticed Clara's nervous stance. He had seen the tension everywhere. And then he spoke. Turning back to Sandra, in a voice calm but dripping with undeniable authority, he asked, "I hope they treated you well." The impact was instant. The VIP clients turned to Helena. The sales assistants held their breath, because everyone knew the answer. Sandra let out a slow, quiet laugh. She looked Helena straight in the eyes, and then, with a voice soft but lethal, she spoke the words that ended everything. Oh yes, they were unforgettable. Helena felt her face burn. One of the VIP clients, an impeccably dressed blonde woman, turned to a sales assistant and murmured, just loud enough for everyone to hear, "If they treat Sandra Bullock like this, imagine how they treat the rest of us." The boutique felt the impact of those words, and in that moment, Helena understood. Her career, her reputation, the status she had spent years building, it was about to crumble. Then Helena's phone vibrated. She grabbed her phone with trembling hands. A message from the boutique's owner. "Helena, we have a serious problem. I need to speak with you immediately." Her heart pounded. But before she could react, a VIP client suddenly stood up, grabbing her designer handbag. "I don't shop at places that mistreat their customers. I'm leaving," and she walked out. Then another. If this happened to her, it could happen to any of us. The murmurs began. The sales assistants exchanged uneasy glances, and then Clara, the assistant who had been silent for too long, removed her name tag. She placed it on the counter. "I can't work here anymore." And with that, Helena was completely alone. The moment the scandal erupted, the owner of Eloise Paris, Philippe Laurent, knew he had to act fast. His luxury boutique was crumbling, its reputation hanging by a thread. The viral whispers on social media had already begun, and his phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages from high-profile clients canceling their appointments. Realizing the power of damage control, Philippe made a bold decision. He would release a public apology video. But not just any video. It had to be dramatic, heartfelt, and perfectly crafted to regain the public's trust. Dressed impeccably in a navy blue suit, Philippe sat in his grand Parisian office, looking directly into the camera. With a solemn expression, he began, "I am deeply ashamed of what transpired in my boutique. What happened to Miss Bullock, and the way our staff treated her, was unacceptable. Luxury is about elegance, not exclusion. Effective immediately, we have parted ways with the manager responsible." He paused, exhaling dramatically. "At Eloise Paris, we do not judge, except on kindness. To Sandra Bullock, to our loyal customers, I sincerely apologize." The video was posted on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Within hours, it exploded. A #Eloise Paris, scandal #justice for Sandra #luxury is for everyone millions watched. Celebrities chimed in, influencers mocked Helena's downfall, but it was too late. Eloise Paris's reputation was shattered, because once a scandal goes viral, there's no undoing it. Meanwhile, Sandra, Keanu, and Clara sat at a quiet cafe across town. Sandra's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, then smirked. The boutique manager has been officially fired. The video has 20 million views. Keanu chuckled. And with that, Sandra said the final words that closed the story forever. "Some people think luxury is power, but real power is knowing how to treat people with respect."